அண்ட் இவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டு அவங்க இத அழகா கத்திருக்காங்க. இத்தனை இடர்பாடுகளுக்கு இடையில் எப்படி டாக்டர் ஜோயி நமக்காக இத வாசிச்சு காட்ட வேண்டாமா? அப்பா! சிறப்பா இருந்தது. ரொம்ப சிறப்பா இருந்தது. நீங்க நீங்க சொல்றபடி அப்படியே ஒரு ஈஸியா வருது உங்களுக்கு. எஃபர்ட்லெஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்ற மாதிரி வருது. அதற்கு ஒரு 11 வயசுல இருந்து உங்களுக்கு அதுக்கு பிராக்டிஸ் இருக்கு. பல பெர்கஷன் இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்ஸ்ல. ரைட். அது ரொம்ப சிறப்பா இருந்தது. இதுல நான் கேட்க வேண்டியது, ஐ grew up in Madurai.
Mm.
To me, Parai is only played only during funerals, right? So what is educate me? Like what is Parai is all about? Like how many adis are there? Like whatever the one that you performed, what is it? Like
Yeah.
explain and educate me. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to do so. And this is really the knowledge that I'm concerned about that's not getting transmitted. Particularly, there's lots of Parai groups now forming in the US, the American Parai in St. Louis, so many groups all over the country. And what I'm concerned about is no one is learning, people are learning the adis, right? The rhythmic patterns. And these are not talas. These are rhythmic patterns. Actually, can you all put that screenshot up of the adi list? So when I studied with Kuranji Mahler, I studied for 4 months, and over that time period, I learned 35 different adis. Only 3 of them at the time I would even thought of as inauspicious, right? And those were the Savu adis, and there are 3 of them for different points in the funeral. Yeah, so all the rest, the other 32 adis that I learned, and I imagine that there probably, I have not done a full, how many are there? I would say there's probably 60 adis, maybe 100, right? And so these are rhythmic patterns. Each one of those rhythmic patterns has an aural association with an event, a ritual context, right? So when the drummers know this knowledge, drummers in the villages know this knowledge, and I think some people today still in the village might also have this knowledge. They'll play a pattern. They'll play a samiatam or tapatam, or they'll play savu, and people will hear it a mile away and go, "Oh, there's a funeral happening. Oh, there's a festival happening. Oh, there's a saranga or a valikapu celebration," because of the particular rhythmic pattern, right? So it's like we can think of it like a ringtone. You set a particular ringtone for your mother when they call, and that's like, oh, mother. So we call it an indexical association, right? So I learned, Samiatam, and there's a general Samiatam. There's one that's specifically for Mutu Marima. There's one that's specifically for Karapusami. Tapatam is the one that most of us know. Jen, Nakudi, 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 Jen, Nakudi. Everybody knows that one. Matu Pongal, this is what they play in Alanganalur for Pongal. Kuravanji, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, Jen, Janaka. Everybody says, oh, that's the gentleman's, Rahman's gentleman. Well, he took it from this pattern called Kuravanji, right? He didn't create that pattern. He borrowed it, took it from these drummers, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, right?
அந்த பாட்டு.
Yeah, right.
ம்.
Exactly. And Kavadi, which is for Murugan processions, Wailatam, etc. And this is a changing repertoire as well. My teachers heard a particular film song and they invented something they call disco, right? And it's very similar actually I think, to the Kavadi. It's just like one syllable different from Kavadi, but it's very fast and it has a particular dance pattern to it. So it's really important to understand this association. This is not getting transmitted to people so many people are learning Parai now. And I don't know, I need to look. Manimaran, I think, is discussing these kinds of things. People are just learning the syllables, the Vaipat or I call it Son Adi. And they're just, learning Janjanaka Nakadin, as opposed to, Temangu or Kavadi. They're not learning the terms, and thus what we call a genre association. And the fact that it's a whole complex of interarts. So there's always a particular dance step. There's a what we call a tune, a mutu. Is that called? No, not mutu. Metu. There's a metu, a tune association. Um, ta na 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 na. Well, what goes with that? Genjanaka, genjanaka. A version of tapatam. And and then there's an event at which that would be played in the ritual context. So that I'm concerned that knowledge, sure, there are still parai drummers in all the villages. They have this knowledge, but the transmission of that, it needs to happen as well. At least the terms, so we know which patterns are associated with which events. So that's part of the work that I'm trying to do in the book that I'm writing. Um, and let me just say, maybe you can take that slide down now. The other thing that's important, you asked about Parai and funerals. This is a very urban middle class, let's say, legend and stereotype. And we need to ask the question critically, what does it function to do? By saying, well, oh, all they play is funerals, right? It functions to degrade them if you believe that the funeral is a polluting context. It repollutes the drummers. It associates the drum with pollution, it reassociates that. So I don't think any person who lives in a village would ever say that, because they know the parai drummers are called for the annual festival and all of these things. But it's people in the urban areas that, they just play for funerals. Well, that is false. It's not true at all. There are all of these adis, and what's really beautiful is that more and more, and I think this is a lot the work of people like Mani Maran, that more and more people are starting to call parai drummers to play for their weddings, to play for various other auspicious events. But the other thing that I've learned recently from visiting the Star group in Seattle is that, from my friend Jay Krishnan, is that in Western Tamil Nadu, in the Polachi area, Daravaram area, when a person dies who is older, who has lived a full life, it's not considered inauspicious. It's considered a festival,
கல்யாண சாவு.
a celebration. And so this is new for me. And I need to do some more research on it. If anyone out there knows more about this, Perasiraka, if you know more about this, and I need to study more about this. When a young person dies, or you die from being murdered or something, okay, that's really mournful. But this idea that it's a celebration, and so, okay, then does that mean that these savu patterns are also auspicious? Does that mean the drum is auspicious? So it's about changing the rhetoric, or can we ever believe that funeral is not polluting? To me, Tamil Makale, that would be your ultimate thing. If you want to prevent this drum from being considered inauspicious, from considering it polluting, then the context in which it plays need to be considered auspicious. And so that that would have to be a big paradigm shift within Hinduism. In ethnomusicology, we would say, it's not just music, it's not just sound, it's not just patterns that we can analyze. It reflects values, it reflects power. There's a power in this instrument. There's a power to bring people together, to unify people, to heal people. And what's beautiful, if you look at all of those genre associations, right? So many of them are for women, right? So I mean, sure, you have first earring piercing, but you have 7 months pregnant, right? There's an ID for that. There's balikapu.
And then you said sadangu, everything related.
Sadangu, exactly. And these are all women-oriented weddings, even, for women, or for a couple, but that's really important for women. So I think it's really important to recognize that as well, that so many of these life cycle events, we would call, are oriented towards women. Yeah.
டச் த ட்ரம் அப்படின்னீங்க. நம்முடைய கல்யாணங்களில் அமெரிக்காவில இப்ப நிறைய கல்யாணங்கள் நடக்க தொடங்கிடுச்சு.
ஆமா.
தமிழ் கல்யாணங்களில் நாம் பறையடித்து கொண்டாட வேண்டும். தேடுறோம் நாதஸ்வர வித்வான்களையும் மிருதங்க வித்வான்களையும் நாம் தேடி அலைந்து எவ்வளவு கொடுக்கணுமோ கொடுத்து கொண்டு வரோம். இன்னைக்கும் நான்
ஆமா.
பாக்குறேன். பறை கலைஞர்களை கொண்டு வந்து நாம் கல்யாணம் நடத்துவதையும் ஒரு புரட்சியாக நாம் செய்ய வேண்டும் அப்படிங்கிறதையும் நான் இங்க சொல்லிக்கிறேன். But this interview really opened my eye, like the viewers would have felt the same, of complete understanding of parai. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your research, your learning experience in Madurai. Like, since especially I grew up in Madurai, Lady Doak and all, like we were there, right? So
Yeah.
it was really fun listening to all that, and it was so nostalgic, and you can say I had such a wonderful time. Thank you so much for coming here and accepting our invitation to share all your thoughts. We really
My
appreciate your time and effort and the service that you are doing for Parai and the Kalingargal, Parai Kalingargal.